afterwards. This will be shared on the Sacred Street Party YouTube channel in a few hours' time. And if anybody's got any questions throughout this afternoon's program, feel free to write them in the chat, and there'll be some time later on for some Q&A. Before we introduce our very special guest speaker, we want to share a little bit about what SSP, or Sacred Street Party, Pandavasan and Sankirtan team have been doing over the past few weeks. Our focus has pretty much been on celebrating the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. We've been trying to spread the glories of this most important scripture, this golden book right here, as we count down the days to arguably the most important festival of the year, Gaur Purnima. Sacred Street Party have set an offering goal of trying to distribute 108 CC sets. And at the moment, we're very, very close to our offering target. We've reached about 88 sets, and we hope that by the end of this program, you'll all feel inspired to get involved, grab a CC set for yourself, or share one with someone else. And very soon also, if you can't wait for that opportunity, very soon the link to purchase or sponsor one will be in the chat. Now, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. We're very, very grateful, honored, and privileged to have in our association, this afternoon, His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Swami. He started his spiritual journey in 1978. At the age of 17, he hitchhiked to India in the search of a higher truth, in search of a deeper meaning to life. And his devotional career took him to Vrindavan and Mayapur, where he was constructing the Prabhupada Samadhi in Mayapur. And he also spent some time in Vrindavan as a temple president. So he's collected so many jewels from the Dhams, and we're so very fortunate that he'll be sharing some of those jewels with us this afternoon. Nowadays, he's very much involved with the Brooklyn Temple in New York, assisting massively, spearheading the redevelopment of that temple. But if we think about what His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Swami's heart is, it's definitely Lord Gauranga. It's definitely the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we thought, who better than His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Swami to take us on a journey to connect with and appreciate the CC this afternoon. So without further ado, we'd like to warmly, warmly welcome, with hearts full of gratitude, enthusiasm, and excitement, His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Swami. His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Swami ki jai.
Thank you, thank you. Let me just double check that my volume is up enough. Oops, 1 second. So, yeah. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita is describing us the nectarian characteristics of Lord Chaitanya. As we know from Rupa Goswami's writings, in the verse Namo Maha Vadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurachvesa Namaha, that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to give love of God to the most fallen. Right? He came to give the topmost to the most fallen. And not just love of God. Although love of God is rare in this world, still love of God can be found also in other tradition. But nowhere can the quality of love of God be found as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has displayed it. So some years ago, I did a presentation on the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which was called As the Chaitanya Charitamrita Provides Us Our Identity. The Chaitanya Charitamrita provides us an identity in two ways, right? One is, it is there that we find devotees like or similar to as we're finding them today. When we look in Srimad Bhagavatam or even Bhagavad Gita, we find Arjuna is a powerful warrior. The Pandavas are royalty, kshatriyas who are fighting great battles, who are controlling celestial weapons, and who are practically superhuman. Bhima being stronger than 10,000 elephants. I mean, that's rather on the strong side. So they are almost superhuman. But when we come to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we find devotees who are in many ways similar to us, although they don't live in the modern day that we are in, but they are trying to chant the Mahamantra. They're chanting japa. They're rising early in the morning. They're hearing. Srimad Bhagavatam is their main scripture. And of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They want to hear about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, describes how daily in the Radha Govinda temple, Radha Govinda temple was the largest temple in Vrindavan. It was 7 stories high. And on top of the temple, there was a very big lamp that was lit at night. And when that lamp was lit, its light would shine so far that it even could be seen in Agra, which was 60 kilometers away. So it is said later, Aurangzeb, he broke 4 stories of that temple. But during the time of around Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's presence on this planet, in Vrindavan, that temple, in that temple, the devotees wanted to hear about the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then shortly after the disappearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, daily thousands of devotees were hearing from the Chaitanya Mangal, which was the name that the Chaitanya Bhagavat from Vrindavan Das Thakur had in those days. And it is said that all these devotees were very eager to hear about Lord Chaitanya. And they would assemble there every night. Then the head pujari, who was a very exalted devotee, and some other great devotees approached Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, and they asked him to write a book about the later pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it was confusing because why ask Krishnadas Kaviraj? He had not even met Mahaprabhu in person. There were still people living who had actually seen Mahaprabhu. Why would you ask someone to write the biography of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who had not even met him in person? Well, but there was more to it. The exalted Vaishnavas in the Radha Govinda temple, they knew very well that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami had been the protege of Raghunath Das Goswami. And Raghunath Das. Of all the Goswamis, Raghunath Das was coming a little later, and he joined later in Jagannath Puri. And he joined Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during these final days, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, upon the order of his mother, went to Jagannath Puri, he shortly visited there. Then he made his 6-year journey around South India and then returned to Puri. Then again, another 6 years, every year, the devotees would come for Rath Yatra and meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then 12 years remained. And during those last 12 years, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going more and more into an internal state of consciousness. And he was more and more forgetting about the material world. And he was becoming more and more absorbed in the eternal pastimes of Krishna and sort of disconnected from everyday life on earth. And so at that point, it became more and more difficult to partake in functions such as Rath Yatra and so on, or to follow any time schedules. So at that time, the devotees were no longer invited from Bengal to come and join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And at that time, Mahaprabhu stayed with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Ramananda Roy, his servant Govinda, and then Raghunath Das was there in Puri, and he was placed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu under the care of Swarup Damodar Goswami. So Swarup Damodar Goswami, he was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal secretary. And Swarup Damodar Goswami, he kept a diary. He kept a diary of everything that transpired in Jagannath Puri. And then over time, as Swarup Damodar Goswami left this world, the diary was lost. But Raghunath Das, who was younger, he knew the contents of the diary. He had heard from Swarup Damodar, and therefore it was Raghunath Das who was sort of bringing that diary with him in his memory. It wasn't written down. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he heard that diary from Raghunath Das. So the assembled Vaishnavas, they knew that. Raghunath Das knows. He knows the later pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that which nobody knows. And oh, we are so eager to hear. Every day we hear about everything Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has done and all the amazing ecstasies that he displayed. And now we particularly would like to hear about these later pastimes. Our Vrindavan Das Thakur has described how the Lord appeared, how he appeared in Navadvip, and how he spent his youth on the banks of the Ganga, how he would wrestle with boys on the banks of the Ganga, how he would treat the proud Smarta Brahmanas who were very proud of their Brahminical status, and while standing in the river Ganges and chanting their Gayatris, standing waist deep in the water, Nimai would swim underwater and pull their legs, and they would just fall over into the water. Or Nimai sat on the bank with water in his mouth, and then when the when the Brahmanas, the proud Brahmanas, would come out of the water, Nimai would spit water on them. He would spit on them. I mean, what is more awful than that, right? But imagine when the Supreme Personality of Godhead spits on you, what great fortune. So in this way, it depends how one looks upon it. The Brahmanas couldn't see it so transcendental. We, of course, saying they were the most fortunate. Oh, may the Lord spit on us 1,000 times over, if possible. Oh, yes. So in this way, we appreciate. When Nimai was growing up into a youth. He was an extraordinary student, and he became very, very learned. And he became proud of his learning, and he was defeating everyone. And after defeating everyone in debate, then he would defeat his own arguments as well, right? So in this way, that what no one could defeat, he defeated. And finally, we know he met that Keshava Kashmiri Pandit, who was very proud, and he defeated that Keshava Kashmiri. So, Hare Krishna. Um, so uh, in this way, we can appreciate how the Chaitanya Bhagavat described Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his childhood, in his youth, and also some of the later pastimes once the Lord began to reveal his identity. Because only after the Lord had been to Gaya, right, which is estimated in his early 20s, only after that he had changed. Some say it was 22, and at 24 he took sannyas. And so Lord Chaitanya then, for about 2 years, revealed his transcendental identity as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and performed pastimes with his associates. All these things are described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat of Vrindavan Das Thakur in a very blissful way. And so the devotees were daily hearing in the Radha Govinda temple. But oh, they were eager to hear these final pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, which he performed in Jagannath Puri. Now, I was saying earlier, the Chaitanya Charitamrita provides us our identity. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is there as Bhakta Rupa, and Lord Nityananda is there as Bhakta Swarup. After the initial invocation is given, then we get the verse Panchatattvamakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhakta Kyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. In that verse, it is said that the Lord appears in 5 features. Kavi Karnapur, in his Gaura Ganadesh Deepika, has given the same verse in 1576, 40 years before Krishnadas Kaviraj gave us the verse. It is Kavi Karnapur who said that the verse came from Sarup Damodar, from that diary that was no longer available. And that and Kavi Karnapur explained that he said not only did Lord Chaitanya appear in 5 features, but Krishna also appeared in 5 features previously. Just as there is Krishna, then his immediate expansion, who is non different from him, is Balaram. Just as there is Lord Chaitanya, immediate expansion, Lord Nityananda. Then there are so many avatars, so many incarnations. So Advaita Acharya also represents the avatar. And in the pastimes of Krishna, there are many avatars of Krishna, many incarnations of Krishna. Then there is the Shakti Tattva. Yes, the Srimati Radharani, she is Shakti Tattva, the Ladini Shakti, the pleasure-giving potency. And finally, there's Jiva Tattva, the living being. So we had Supreme Personality of Godhead, we had his immediate expansion, we had his pleasure potency, and we had his we had the avatar, we had his pleasure potency, and we had the jiva. So Krishna also appears along with these same features. Kavi Karnapur explains. So yes, we're looking at that. And so we are in the Jiva category as living beings. So when we are reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we are reading it as uh, jivas. Uh, Once in my more poetic days, I used to write songs, and in one song I came up with a line that everything you see has the color of your eyes. Uh, or as we say in Sanskrit, Atmavan jayate, Atmavan manyate jagat, that we see the universe through our mind. Uh, so that is a fact. Therefore, as jivas, we are infinitesimal beings. We're insignificant. Our power is very limited. Uh, Therefore, we are always in need of shelter. When we are not situated in shelter, then immediately we will be situated in fear. That is the situation. Bhayam dvitya abhinivesita syat. As soon as we are separated from the Supreme Lord, we're experiencing fear. The devotees described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, they were all taking shelter of the Lord, and they're always chanting. They're always turning to the Lord. Amongst them is Haridas Thakur. Oh, Haridas, Namacharya, always absorbed in chanting. Oh, Haridas, yes. We are praying that we may also take shelter. So, the beginning of the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there Lord Chaitanya is the Chana avatar. He is the hidden avatar. He is not revealing himself to everyone. He's just acting like a child. But what kind of child? What kind of child he is? When Mother Sachi was carrying Lord Chaitanya in her womb, she became effulgent. The demigods appeared. Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and many other of the demigods appeared and offered prayers. And they said, oh, you are the mother of the demigods. You are Aditi, the wife of Kasyapa. You are the mother of the Supreme Lord who appears again and again. You are Devaki. You are Yasoda, the mother of Krishna. You are Kausalya, the mother of Lord Ram. In this way, again and again, you appear in this world as the mother of the Supreme Lord. Sachi Devi then is known in the Chaitanya Bhagavat as I. I is referring to the original mother, right? The original mother. So Sachi Mata is the emblem of motherhood, and completely absorbed in taking care of her son. So in the beginning, as Nitai, as Chaitanya is the Chana avatar, he's hidden. But the demigods, they understood. They offered prayers. And miracles did happen, many. We recall that, oh yes, they could hear, while the baby was lying down, the noise of ankle bells. They could see the footprints of the Supreme Lord on the floor, and they could see that actually this child also had such footprints. But how could he run? How could that noise be his? No, that could not be, because he is a baby. He cannot walk, right? So when we hear the noise of children's footsteps running through the house and ankle bells. What can that be? Oh, Jagannath Mishra said, it's a miracle. I think the Shaligram Shila is coming off the altar and running through the house. That's the only possibility. In this way, the childhood pastimes are going on and miracles are displayed. There are many miracles that are displayed. Yeah, many miracles. Let me see. Yes, I have here some. During Ekadasi, there was an offering, a very opulent offering to the Lord of grains and etc. in the house of Hiranya and Govardhan Majumdar. And Nimai was claiming to be ill that day. And he somehow or other then, as he was in bed, he was demanding this offering, the Mahaprasadam. He said, that will cure me. So the parents went there to Hiranya and Govardhan Majumdar and they said, how can this child know that there is a very opulent offering? We had a special offering today in our house. How can this child know? Immediately send some Mahaprasadam. Right? So they sent a large quantity of Mahaprasadam. And Nitai ate it, or Chaitanya ate it with great satisfaction. Yes. Another interesting pastime is the pastime of the Brahmana. That Brahmana, he was appearing at the house of Jagannath Mishra, the father of the Lord. And Jagannath Mishra welcomed him. And because Brahmanas would generally cook themselves and make offerings to their Shaligram Shila, he gave the Brahmana to ingredients to cook. So the Brahmana started cooking and was ready to make an offering. And just as he's chanting the mantras for offering, just as we are chanting Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmani Tai Tai, as he's chanting these mantras, then suddenly there was Nimai. And before anybody could do anything, Nimai would just stick his hand in the boga and eat it. And I was like going, no, oh no, this child has spoiled the offering. Oh no, oh no. And Jagannath Mishra, you rascal, what have you done? You know what I mean? Get out of here. And, a big thing. And it continued. They convinced the Brahmana to cook again. And a second time Nimai came. Third time, Brahmana didn't want to cook anymore. But somehow or other, Jagannath Mishra convinced him to cook for a third time. Again, Nimai somehow or other managed to get into the room, even although they were standing guard in front of the door. Still he got in. And still he managed to eat that boga, the rascal. And then, the Brahmana said, I am oftentimes staying in the forest. I'm accustomed to live on roots and fruits, and it is not a problem for me. The Lord doesn't want me to cook. But then Vishwarup came. And Vishwarup, the elder brother of Lord Chaitanya, who was such a saintly person, he requested that Brahmana, please cook. Please cook one more time. Then the Brahmana said, what could he do? He did. And then he was finished by midnight. Then, just as the Brahmana is chanting the mantras, there was Nimai. The Brahmana says, no. And Nimai already had put his hand into the rice and already took a bite. And the Brahmana said, no. Then Nimai displayed his transcendental features. And he showed that he was Krishna. And he showed that he was Ramachandra. And then the Brahmana understood he was the Supreme Lord. Then that Brahmana became so ecstatic, he smeared that rice all over his body. And he ate it also. So in this way, the ecstasy was very great. And then that Brahmana remained in Navadvip, and he was daily begging door to door, and he would every day beg to the house of Jagannath Mishra, just so he could get the darshan of the Lord. But the Lord had forbidden him strictly to tell anybody his identity. So we see all these miraculous things in the early life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When we are looking further at miracles, we see that in his youth, Nimai showed like superhuman learning. Later, as a preacher, Nimai was, of course, performed the Jarikanda Lila, where he made all the animals in the jungle dance, and where, where elephants started dancing, where deer and tigers danced and embraced each other and even kissed each other. That was going on. And then after that, still other things. There was Vasudev, the leper, such a devotee. And this Vasudev, he was just amazing. Vasudev was just really something. One second. Okay, one sec. It's a lazy sofa, and I'm getting a little lazy now. Yeah. Wow. That's pretty good. Yay. So Vasudev, the leper, he was a great devotee, and he was totally transcendental to the bodily concept of life. Vasudev was not at all concerned with his material body, and somehow or other he had gotten leprosy. So leprosy is horrible, and the limbs start rotting away, and there were worms in his body eating his body. And then what happened is sometimes the worms would fall out, and Vasudev felt like, oh, this is not good, because this body is their food, so they will starve. So I cannot be the cause of their death. He would pick them up and put them back. So he was definitely quite transcendental. And then Vasudev, the leper, heard that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in South India. And he was eager to meet him. And he went to the place where Mahaprabhu was. But then Mahaprabhu had just left. Then Vasudev just cracked. He broke, and he was just overwhelmed in the greatest despair. And then Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, appreciating the greatness of this Vasudev and the depth of his suffering, just responded and immediately manifested himself in that spot again. And he embraced Vasudev, who then got a beautiful body, who was freed from all disease. And in this way, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed another miracle. Yes. So also we know that later Sanatana Goswami contracted sores, and Lord Chaitanya cured that. We know that in South India, there were trees that Lord Ramachandra had been questioned if he was powerful enough to fight against Ravana. Then Lord Ramachandra had shot one arrow through 7 huge sal trees. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to that place, he embraced these sal trees, and they all went back to the spiritual world. So they disappeared. So that was another miracle. Okay, in Puri, during Ratha Yatra, Lord Chaitanya, he pushed the chariot of Lord Jagannath with his head, and it immediately started to move. Right? Although even big wrestlers couldn't move it, even although elephants had been changed to the chariot and the chariot didn't move. The crowd couldn't move. But when Lord Chaitanya pushed the chariot, it started to move, and the people were not even pulling the rope. It just rolled along the road. He just gave it one push with his head. That was another miracle. So there are more miracles, but I've just sort of shown that Lord Chaitanya certainly has shown many miracles. And miracles are required when we are looking at the divinity, of the Lord. But that's not the purpose of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. The purpose of the Chaitanya Charitamrita is not just to establish that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord. Yes, it does so, but that's not the principal purpose. The principal purpose is to reveal love of God. Prema Pumarta Maha. And as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed his miracle, the greatest miracle that he showed was his love of God. Right? No greater miracle had been shown than that love of God that he showed. His tears would shoot in all directions. In the temple in Jagannath Puri, there was a nully in the back, a drain, and it was just filled with the water of Lord Chaitanya's tears. Lord Chaitanya's limbs, they entered into his body. He became Kurma Chaitanya. He became like a ball, and the cows, he was in the Goshala, and the cows were sniffing and licking, and they would not let him go. When anybody came near, they would not let them come near. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's miracles continue, but the greatest miracle was the depth of his love of God. And he displays that. And gradually we see in the Madhya Lila how the love of God of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is being revealed. In the Adi Lila, when he is still the hidden avatar and performing childhood pastimes, then his love of God is not really showing other than in the times that he suddenly faints, right? But in the Madhya Lila, he's with his devotees and he shows his love of God. But in the Antya Lila in Puri, he shows this love of God to the fullest extent. Therefore, all the devotees who had heard the Chaitanya Bhagavat were very eager for Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami to write, because Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami could write about those later pastimes of Lord Chaitanya that fully displayed the miracle of love of God. And that was the amazing thing. And that was the whole purpose, why they wanted the Chaitanya Charitamrita to be written. That's why they were eager. And of course, Krishnadas was very qualified. He was a learned representative of the school or the philosophical school of Rupa Goswami. So he was a perfect person in terms of philosophy. He was very learned himself. He had received the great mercy of Nityananda. There's one description about a dream where Lord Nityananda appears in the dream of Krishnadas Kaviraj. And when that happens, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami becomes so ecstatic and so overwhelmed with love of God that it is really clear that Krishnadas is, when he is writing about the topmost levels of love of God, that he's not just a theoretical writer, but that he himself has the direct experience of that topmost level of love of God. So this is most amazing, most amazing, how Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is a representative of the 6 Goswamis, how he himself is a realized Prema Bhakta, and how he knew everything about the later pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, all the Vaishnavas wanted Krishnadas Kaviraj to write about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to fully disclose this miracle of Krishna Prem and its amazing symptoms. And so, and through reading it, in the beginning, when we read the CC, we find ourselves an identity as a practitioner. But as we continue to read the CC, we find ourselves an identity as a lover of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this way, it is most wonderful to study the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And therefore it is the topmost book, the book of the topmost important, because it describes the topmost goal in life in detail, both philosophically, in a practical way. It describes us by the practical example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What is the nature of pure love of God? So I'll turn over the microphone to Rasika Rai, who will represent your questions.
Thank you, Maharaj, for a wonderful presentation on the CC, the miracles and jewels we find in the CC, and the topmost miracle, which is love of God. And what a beautiful way to get us ready for that celebration we have tomorrow, Gaur Purnim. Now love of Godhead is made available because of Lord Chaitanya's appearance. If anybody's got any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat, and we will fill them out now and ask them to Maharaj. We can start off with this one question. A lot of devotees have been asking, the CC is like supposed to be postgraduate study, yet some people have been distributing it and trying to encourage people to sponsor the CC for placement in prisons and hospitals and schools. Is that appropriate?
Mm-hmm. Srila Prabhupada told us that Bhagavad Gita is preliminary study, that Srimad Bhagavatam is graduate study, and Chaitanya Charitamrita postgraduate study. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta had a different approach. His approach was for the people of Bengal, that they should first read the Chaitanya Bhagavat, then they should read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then they should read the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay? So he was going through Lord Chaitanya, because in Bengal, the culture of Lord Chaitanya is very much known. Now, why is the Chaitanya Charitamrita postgraduate study? For one reason, because some of the things, some of the avatars of the Lord, for example, some of the expansions of the Lord, the energies which are described in a more detailed way in Srimad Bhagavatam, are very short and quickly described without too much elaborate explanation in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So it helps if we have the preliminary knowledge when we approach Chaitanya Charitamrita. And if we haven't studied Srimad Bhagavatam, we may not always understand everything from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. However, we should understand is that this is what we're part of. We're part of Lord Chaitanya's movement. And if we don't read the Chaitanya Charitamrita or don't hear about the Chaitanya Charitamrita, then we'll never understand the nature of our movement, the movement that we're part of, and we will not fully understand our identity. Yeah? I was, for example, in a house, and there was no Lord Chaitanya to be found in the house. All I found was Vrindavan pictures, Krishna pictures, no Lord Chaitanya. So that's incomplete, because without Lord Chaitanya, right, there's no question we can even approach Vrindavan. Right? Without that mercy, without that special mercy of being forgiven for our lack of qualification, etc., where would we be? We totally depend on Lord Chaitanya. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita is most important. So even if you haven't read anything, you should still hear from the Chaitanya Charitamrita and read it. Just like Srila Prabhupada in 1966 with the hippies from the Lower East Side who really didn't know anything, right? He started giving lectures from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, from the postgraduate. Yeah? And one might just say, why? If this is the postgraduate, how can he speak on such exalted topics to these very new people? I mean, we know a lot more than they did, right? Because we have many experienced speakers, we hear so many lectures, this, that, but Prabhupada spoke to these new people this philosophy, understanding that they needed to know what is the nature of this movement. So therefore, yes, it should be put in school libraries, it should be put in our own library, and we should read it. Right? Sometimes they say, oh, postgraduate, I have never finished the Bhagavatam, so I cannot read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. No, you must read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is very important. Because it is what we live. I often say it, and I'll say it to you also. We are living in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, because right now we are living in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. That is the miracle in our life. It's happening to us. The mercy came straight into the door of our house. How? I don't know how it happened in your case. But somehow or other, my former wife, who I met sort of at that time for the first time, she had a new dog, and she was looking for a name. So someone had just the day before finished reading a book of Krishnamurti. So he said, oh, call the dog Krishnamurti. And she said, no, that's too long. I'll call it Krishna. And next moment we had a dog named Krishna, and then I met her, and I also had a dog named Krishna. And then I was walking with that dog and calling it Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. In this way, the mercy of Lord Chaitanya came in my life through a dog. I don't know how that mercy came in your life, right? But somehow or other, Lord Chaitanya made arrangements for all of us to come to him. So see, the miracles are happening at home. Thank you, Rasika Rai.
Thanks, Maharaj. In what mood should we approach the CC?
I think we are very fortunate that we have a translation of a pure representative of Lord Chaitanya in the form of Srila Prabhupada. And that Srila Prabhupada was able to perfectly represent Lord Chaitanya without any alteration. And as a result, right, we can approach the Chaitanya Charitamrita with full faith, that every word that is written there is the truth. And we can therefore fully trust it. We can place our trust in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and try to follow in the footsteps of the great personalities that are there. And we can try to dedicate ourselves in hearing and chanting and devotional service in the way that it is described and shown by these great devotees. The Chaitanya Charitamrita is really a book full of role models. Right? So if we follow in the footsteps of these role models, then we can also walk the path of pure devotional service.
These questions are flying in. It feels like we're at an airport. I've got one more, Maharaj.
Okay.
Right. Was Vishwarup still there at home when the Brahmana guest had come?
Yes, he was still at home. Yes. Vishwarup, of course, is the elder brother of Lord Chaitanya. And Vishwarup, he is known to be an expansion of Lord Nityananda. Vishwarup, he left home to take sannyas. And it is said that Vishwarup traveled and that he left his body in Pandharpur. That is mentioned in, that is the place of Vitalnath in Maharashtra. Our Lokanath Maharaj is from that area. And yes, so Vishwarup, it said, became one with Lord Nityananda. He became one with Lord Nityananda.
Maharaj, how to be in the shelter of Lord Chaitanya and
how to be in the shelter of
Lord Chaitanya and not in fear of him.
And not in fear of him. No, why should we be in fear of him? He is very kind. He's not one to be afraid of because he doesn't consider offense. So there's no need to be afraid. We can be very easily appreciate that Lord Chaitanya forgives. So let us, he's forgiveness personified. So he's soft-hearted. Just as Radharani, the female counterpart of Krishna, is very soft-hearted, when Lord Chaitanya is Krishna in the mood, in the soft-hearted mood of Radharani, ready to forgive anyone. So no need to fear. That's not needed.
No need to fear.
No need.
Looking to Gaurpranim now, tomorrow, a lot of devotees are asking how best to observe Gaurpranim. What can be our meditation ahead of the big day tomorrow?
It is a day of service. We are meant to serve. We are meant to glorify Lord Chaitanya. We are meant to please the deity of Lord Chaitanya. So we can make many nice offerings to Gaurnitai, nice decoration. We can spend our time remembering the pastimes and philosophy and teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we can also do something to spread the mercy of Lord Chaitanya further to other people. And then at night, or whatever time you break the fast, then when it's time to break fast, then you eat a big feast, right? And you have to fill yourself up to the neck. There's no such thing as healthy nibbling on Gaurpranim. Okay? It's like at Gaurpranim, you have to eat. And even if you have health issues, I have a whole list of health issues, but to hell with them on Gaurpranim, you know what I mean? Forget it. I mean, it's like my assistant said, who will cook for you tomorrow? I said, I will just take Mahaprasadam, whatever they've offered to the Lord, that I will take. As simple as that. Yes. Just as Prabhupada would, you know, Prabhupada would do that on such occasions. You just take the Mahaprasad. In this way, let us celebrate, let us glorify. I remember my first Gorpanim, and my first Gorpanim, I was somehow or other in the Bhaktivedanta manner. And in those days, what is now the reception, right, was just a big empty room. And it's a big room, right? And we were sitting in that room rolling sweet balls. And we were just rolling sweet balls. And then we just fill up a tray, push it away, and then put another empty tray near us. And the whole room was turning into an ocean of sweet balls. And I was just going crazy. And I was thinking, why are these Hare Krishnas doing this? You know what I mean? Like they're fasting and at the same, and then they sit in an ocean of sweet balls. I mean, isn't that like, you know, torture or what? You know, what is this? Right? I found it, I couldn't understand it because I couldn't fully appreciate the idea of pleasing the Lord, that we're serving the pleasure of the Lord. I thought it was the strangest thing, you know. And anyway, but that's what we did. And then later there was a very big Harinam with, from what I have in my head, they said 475 devotees. Yeah. And we distributed lots of these sweets. And I ate some as well. And they were good. And I've been meditating on them the whole day.
Lots of prasad on the menu for tomorrow then. Thank you, Maharaj. We've got another question here about the humane nature of Lord Chaitanya. One devotee is asking, sometimes the humane nature of Lord Chaitanya makes it difficult to recognize him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How can we overcome this humane or human nature?
Well, you know, we see that in all the avatars of the Lord, is that they are, or at least the ones that take the human form, is that they sometimes act human and sometimes superhuman, right? So Lord Chaitanya acts human and superhuman. But Lord Chaitanya particularly is not showing so much supernatural power in the fact in fighting with weapons like Lord Ramachandra or like Krishna. But Lord Chaitanya shows this superhuman power in his ecstatic love and in dancing and in just dancing for days and just sometimes just stopping because the devotees are getting tired. But Lord Chaitanya is not getting tired because he is the Supreme Lord. So therefore, in his pastimes, because he doesn't, he doesn't lift a Govardhan hill or something like that. Yeah, although I gave a list of miracles that he performed, but Lord Chaitanya, he just cries tears, so many tears out of love, right? That's not human anymore. Where's all that water coming from? There's more water streaming away from him than there can be in the human body. He's not human at all. Who's saying that he is human? He's divine. Yet, in his divinity, he comes close to us and acts in human ways out of his causeless mercy.
Jai. Maharaj, what?
Tired because Maharaj, as you know, has 2 more streams. So Maharaj would love to go late, but Maharaj has quite a bit longer.
No problem, no problem. We've received so much nectar already. And we're so very grateful. It's like in the Western calendar, we've got Christmas, and the day before Christmas is Christmas Eve, and we fill our tree with presents. And today's our equivalent of Christmas Eve. It's Gauranga Eve, but now we've taken from this tree, from this desire tree, many gifts, many presents. So it's the opposite. So we're very, very grateful, Maharaj, that you kindly gave us your energy, all these jewels, and prepared us so nicely for the journey of Gauranga ahead.
Yeah, you took it to the Christian Christmas tree, but of course, in our own tradition, this is the Adivas, and the Adivas is the day before, the evening before the actual observance, and it is true that on the night of the Adivas, we begin to glorify the Lord, and we are particularly looking at our purpose on the day. So let us tomorrow make a special effort to please Lord Chaitanya. And if we use our Gauranga for that, not like that we just say, okay, then we'll eat the feast or something like that, or if you can't go to the temple, okay, I'll wait till I get the package with prasadam sent home, and when we reach it, we're certainly going to offer it, but we'll light a lamp for Lord Chaitanya tomorrow. Whatever you can do, make a special effort. Even at home, even if you're in lockdown, you can cook. You can cook a big feast at home and offer it to a picture of Lord Chaitanya, deities of Lord Chaitanya, somehow or other. Let us think what else we can do on this special day. You can, and you can order a set of Chaitanya Charitamrita for your home on this occasion of Gaur Purnima. That would be nice. And I'm sure Rasika Roy will supply it to you. And that would be a great thing to do. Or you can.
For sure. And there we go. Maharaj, you said it, and here it is. If the devotees are feeling inspired, if the devotees are feeling enthusiastic, in the spirit of doing something extra between now and tomorrow, please type this address into your address bar, bit.ly/cc-sets, and you can pick up a set. £75 for a Chaitanya Charitamrita set, £85 for UK delivery. Make sure you quote SSP. That'll help us get our score up and help us offer something nice to Lord Gauranga.
No international delivery.
If there are some international devotees on this call and they want to write in the chat the different links for how the different devotees can get their sets in their respective countries to save on Lakshmi, that'll be fantastic, because I'm not sure how much it will cost to transport nine beautiful golden books to the different parts of the world from the UK. But please do share in the chat if you've got any links for different countries. Good news for this link is that you can get a set in English, Bengali, Gujarati, Hindi, Tamil, and Telugu. So please do consider this opportunity. Who do you know that doesn't have a CC set in their home? Who do you know that needs a CC set? Let's get it out to them. Let's make this a wonderful offering to Lord Chaitanya on his appearance. And if you're going to be at the manor tomorrow and you've already booked a darshan ticket, you can select to pick one up from the manor. Just write it in the donation notes. And whatever you do, just make sure you write referred by SSP. Thank you to Niam for the screen share. And with that, we've got one last little surprise for the devotees. We want to share a darshan of their beautiful lordships of Pandavasena. That's Pandavasena's Gaurnitai, Shri Shri Dayal Nitai, Vijaya Gauranga. So please brace yourselves for beautiful darshan of our beautiful lordships. Sometimes the Lord comes at
Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam.
Jai. Shri Shri Dayanitai Vijaya Gauranga ki Jai. Thank you so much to His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Swami for speaking about the miracles of the CC, the greatest miracle, the love of God that Lord Chaitanya provides access to, and of course, warming our hearts for the big celebration tomorrow. Lots and lots of prasad, everyone. That's on the agenda. If you like a CC set, bit.ly/cc-sets, the recording of this class, this program will be available in the next few hours. And however you're going to be celebrating tomorrow on behalf of the devotees at Pandavasena, we warmly wish you well and really, really appreciate all of your time, energy, and enthusiasm today. G is for Gauranga and also for gratitude. So thank you and all the best. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you.
Bye.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Thank you very much.
Radhe Radhe Maharaj. Hare Krishna everyone.
Krishna, Hare
Thank
Krishna
you.
Maharaj.
Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj.
Haribol Maharaj,
Thank you,
the best.
Rasika Rai, for